Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We're real excited. We have a wonderful guest today. His name is Glenn Kinnaird, and he's going to be telling us about his wonderful Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read book. It's called Tony the Theater Dog. Glenn's also going to answer the question, what's the proper way to spell theater? Before we welcome Tony to the studios, I would love to welcome you to the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, November 23rd and 24th. More specifically, I'd love to welcome you to the Reading with Your Kids totally interactive booth at the 2019 Chicago Toy and Game Fair, November 23rd and 24th at Navy Pier in Chicago. It's going to be a great time. Our booth is going to be amazing, and you're going to have a chance to experience what it's like to be a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. You're going to be able to go home with a souvenir audio recording of you on the show, and you may be used in a future episode of the show. At the Toy Fair, you're also going to have a chance to interact with life-size toys and games, meet inventors, meet authors, have so much fun. And families, you can save $3 per ticket when you go to shytag.com, CHITAG.com, shytag.com, and use the promo code RWYK, the Reading with Your Kids initials, RWYK at checkout. Save $3 per ticket. No limits as to how many tickets you can purchase. It's going to be a great time. We hope to see you there. The largest toy and game fair in North America, the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, November 23rd and 24th at Navy Pier in Chicago. Join us on the line right now from New York City and New York. He is the author of Tony the Theater Dog. Please welcome to the show, Glenn Kinnaird. Glenn, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I am wonderful. Really excited to talk about Tony the Theater Dog, and I am hoping that you can resolve the age-old question: what's the proper way to spell theater?
Okay, the thing that I've been told is ER is a building or a place, a location, whereas RE is the term for theater in when you're talking about the material, the act, the performing arts. So when we're talking about theater, RE, it is the formal spelling for theater, and it's really about the actions of putting on theater.
So it's kind of like the spirit as opposed to just the physical building.
True.
Yeah. Awesome. And so that makes perfect sense that Tony the Theater Dog is spelt with that R-E.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you'll see in the book, as you read along, when we talk about the theater as a building, we changed it to ER. So the kids will see it with two different spellings, and it'll kind of bring a subject up with the teachers that use the book in their classrooms. We're planning on doing a teacher supplement. It's coming out soon, developed by a doctorate friend of mine in education, and that's one of the subjects about whether theater is spelled with ER or RE and what's the difference.
Well, I'm excited because theater is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's the way I've been making my living for the past 30 years, putting on educational magic shows at schools and churches and libraries and wherever across the country. And that is one of the things that I learned, very early on, is that you don't have to be in a theater, ER, to create theater.
RE.
That's
Very
right.
good. That's correct. And I have had a love for it since my primary education through high school and also secondary education. I was in a drama class and wrote a play, getting my associate's degree in Atlanta, Georgia, and then later finishing my bachelor's degree in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama, with the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I majored in writing for performance and communications. So the program didn't focus on only playwriting. We rewrote for radio shows, TV shows. And so in that writing, I began to learn all about theater and many aspects of theater that I was not privy to. I mean, of course, in high school, either drama teacher or the choir teacher that's going to put on a musical or a play, they're going to get the kids involved and the parents involved in making the sets and putting the costumes together. So other than the director and maybe a costume designer or set designer, you really don't learn a lot about the happenings of theater backstage and the careers that are involved. It takes a lot of people to put together a production, especially a Broadway production or even a big regional production. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the ideas we had as I started getting into summer camps for kids, like kids' minds are ready to explore and learn new things. They're always eager to learn. And so this was a way to touch on what's happening behind the scenes with kids pre-K through sixth grade.
And I think that's such an important thing, to help kids understand that there are so many people. It could just be a one-person show. There's, like in my magic show, there's one person that's on stage. But I always tell the kids, I can't do this by myself. It's the custodian who prepared the space that I'm performing in. It's the PTA. It's the principal. It's the kids who come up on stage and help me. And in a traditional theater, there's so many more. There's the lighting and the staging and the stage manager and the tickets and the box office and so many. It really is all about team. We think about team and teaching teamwork in the context of sports, but teamwork is absolutely essential in theater.
Oh, and absolutely. And if I were a major business owner and I saw someone with a college education and they minored or had some theater background, I know right then that they have had experience with creating an event. It's, creating theater is a lot like creating an event. Mm-hmm. If they've been an actor, then I know they have excellent speaking skills, public speaking, they're perfect for that. And so getting someone on your team that can put an event together or present a sales pitch without any problem because they've already played an actor on stage or been part of a production, so they understand many facets, not just team building, but orchestrating an actual event where the public is going to come see it. And most companies all have to reach the public in order for their products and services to be put out there to be purchased and consumed. So theater, I think people are wrong to discount it. There are many parts of theater and the performing arts that prepare children for vibrant careers, whether they don't stay in the arts. If they do go on to other things, I believe it is absolutely vital to the success of a person in their adult life.
Absolutely. I've had the pleasure of speaking to literally captains of industry from around the world in different podcasts. And the skills that you were speaking about, the teamwork, the being able to get along with each other, the being able to continue on with the show when, a light might fall down in the middle of performance or whatever. Those are the kind of skills that you can't teach, necessarily in a class, but they're absolutely vital to success in the business world. And you learn those things by working together. And the theater is such a great place to learn some of those skills.
Right. And the inspiration of the book was working with a group of kids in my hometown of Gardendale, Alabama, which is about north of Birmingham, about 18 miles. They had asked me, I was working in theater in New York now since 2006, and they said, we want you to come back and help us start a kids program in the summer for children. And so doing that with them and producing this, Disney's Alice in Wonderland Junior, through the, MTI shows. It's a musical theater international program where, regional theaters and schools can go through MTI and license any of the junior shows for young kids, and the kids can actually put on Disney shows. So we were doing Alice in Wonderland Junior, and the kids were so hungry to build their own sets and come up with their own costumes. And so really it started developing in my mind that Tony the Theater Dog, which was already a concept I had come up with back in 2010, that it could do more than just tell a cute story about a dog working in theater. And so that's kind of how it started to take shape.
That's wonderful. Tell us about the story of Tony the Theater Dog. What can we expect to experience while we're reading that book with our kids?
Well, when you're reading the book with your kids, I hope that you will realize, don't stop at the page that says the end. Keep going in the book, because there are pages in the back that talk about the real life dogs that are depicted in the book. You know, Tony the Theater Dog is based on a real life dog, my dog Tony, who I got in 2008 to be a companion, and he's been my best friend ever since. And then when I started getting more into professional theater, both off Broadway and trying to get into Broadway, in 2010, Tony is always with me, and so he just grabbed the name. He was given the name Tony the Theater Dog just by friends and other peers in the industry. And so when you get into Tony the Theater Dog, he starts in New York telling you about a theater where they're putting on a show, and he wants to take you backstage. So this is, I don't know how many kids out there have had backstage tours of big shows, or even worked backstage on a regional production. Most people just go and see the show, or they'll take their kids to audition to be one of the actors on stage. And if you're an actor on stage, you're really consumed with getting in your costume and memorizing your lines and performing. You know certain things about what's happening backstage, but I guess the bigger audience, the spectators of theater don't know a lot about what happens backstage. And so this story takes kids on a backstage tour, introducing them to careers and people that work backstage to make the show happen. So the first book in the series, we started with putting on a show. Actually, putting on a show, because that's our little slang tip of the hat, because everyone says putting on a show, like putting on the Ritz, Mm-hmm. So, you'll meet different characters and dogs through the book, and there are a couple of humans in there. I play myself as a playwright. You'll meet, let's see, you're going to meet a stage manager named Cooper, who's based on the grandfather of the illustrator's dog. And then you'll meet Honey, and it's my mom's dog, who my mom is 93. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Still living in Gardendale, Alabama.
Awesome.
And she's a seamstress, so she usually helps put, costumes together when I've done shows in the past, and she helped us on the little kids summer theater camp that inspired the book.
That's
and so I did just mention, the illustrator. An interesting story about coming into the book and the beautiful illustrations were created by a junior, and senior in high school. She was a junior when she started, and she finished coloring the pages in her senior year. Her name is Livy Perel. She's from Gardendale and was a part of that summer theater camp for kids. And she drew the characters from Alice in Wonderland so wonderfully that we auctioned them off and raised money for that theater program there. And so after that, I asked her parents, I said, I'm writing a book for kids about theater. Do you think Livy would be interested in taking, a shot at it? And so once she drew the first illustration of Tony, I knew that she had everything that she needed to be able to illustrate the book. So luckily, we connected very early on. She's very interested in doing the other books in the series. And once you get through Tony the Theater Dog, you'll meet some characters that hopefully you're going to see again in some of the upcoming books. That's
fantastic. And I really loved that you mentioned the fact that you hope that parents and kids will continue to read after the page that says the end. And sure. Because it's not only the end of your book, because there's so much of that great information there, but I hope they take their experience with them to the next live theater performance they attend, or the next concert they attend, or, just to help them understand who else is, we see that person up on stage, or those people up on stage, but who else is making this thing happen?
Yeah. There goes Tony.
There you go.
Hey, you're going to get in the interview? Come here. He wanted to say hello to everyone.
Awesome. Tony, thanks for being on the show.
Sometimes he's quiet during the radio shows, but I guess he wanted to say hi.
Well, this is a special show. We're nominated for that iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award. He understands quality when he sniffs it.
That's right.
And
he boned up on your show before we got on here with you.
Good stuff. Well, that's part of being in the theater, being able to blow your own horn a little bit.
That's right.
Tell me, we were talking earlier about the kind of status and that theater has taken on these days. We kind of joked about, back 40, 50 years ago when I was in high school,
yeah.
In a lot of places, theater was looked down on, and it's only where the nerds, the kids who couldn't play any sports, ended up when they had to do something. But it's really changed in a lot of ways, and changed for the better, I think.
I think for the better. And the shows are changing, and the shows, the new contemporary musicals and plays are reaching out and touching the lives of kids more now, like with High School Musical being on TV, and now all the musicals being done live on TV, so the kids are becoming more familiar with some of the classics. And then we have stories like Dear Evan Hansen that is on Broadway now and really touches to the heart of where kids are in their lives and what they're dealing with. So we see sometimes social political issues, but a lot of times a musical can just be good-hearted fun, just a lot of fun for kids. And I think programs like Shrek, the musical, is fun for that. Everyone loves Elf at the holidays. So I think kids are really getting into it because the stories are becoming more entertaining and fun and less, when we were back in the day, Cats was like the thing. Everybody wanted to dress up like the cat and crawl around on stage, and that is still a great musical. Mm-hmm. It's one of the classics, but now they've got, shows like Beetlejuice. I'm sure Beetlejuice soon will be available for licensing, and kids in high schools and regional theater programs will be putting those shows on around the country, just like they do Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast is still one of the number one licensed shows, and you see regional theaters and high schools putting it on all around the country, all around the world, really.
I think that's another thing. I hadn't thought of this beforehand, but you've mentioned licensing a couple of times. And I think that's a really important thing that we can start to talk to our kids about, and the kids can learn through participating in theater. The whole idea of respecting other people's intellectual property, especially nowadays where it's so easy to share files and, share is being generous. But, we need to help our kids understand that artists, whether they're authors or songwriters or visual artists, that's their work and that's their property. And just because you can copy it doesn't mean that you should copy it.
True. And I think the music industry especially went through a huge turmoil when the radio there were programs out there, and I forget the name of it right now, but you could download a free piece of music that was licensed, and you're bypassing the creators of that and the record labels. And so with a song, 99 cents, it's $1, and every kid has $1 and most parents give them a card, or they have prepaid cards where they can buy music. And so I encourage them to continue trying to get the music that's available to purchase online, because taking things that aren't necessarily for purchase, it does sort of hurt the whole industry, whether it's songwriting, whether it's copying plays or music from online for free. It hurts everybody in the long run, and we don't really want to support that. We want to support giving back, because if you were that creator, if you were that author or illustrator of a book or a songwriter, you are going to depend on that money because that's what you do for a living. Mm-hmm. And so we have to honor that, and teaching our kids to honor that system is teaching them respect. And I think that's a good thing too.
Absolutely. I'll never forget my daughter's in the music business, and as she was coming up and through high school and college, we worked helping some breaking out talent put on shows. And I remember being with an artist one night, and he was signing his CDs after the performance, and these two young women came up, and one of them bought the CD, and he was autographing it for her, and the second young woman was going to also purchase a CD, and the first one said, no, you don't have to do this, I'll make a copy for you. Right there in front of the artist.
Oh.
And it was, I have to tip my hat off to the artist. He just smiled, and, but it was...
At the end of the day, it's on them,
Right. Well, you mentioned future editions of Tony the Theater Dog. What other kind of adventures do you envision for him?
So the second book that we're releasing next year is Tony the Theater Dog Goes South. And this is where he explores a road trip. Mm-hmm. And then when he comes to my hometown, he meets a bunch of different characters that are different from people that he met in New York City. And he learns that they're just like people from all over the country, and they put on a summer theater camp for kids just like we did. And he was present during that, and that was the summer camp that actually, and where we met the illustrator and what spawned the books. So in the adventures down south, they put on a hysterical show called Wonderland, and we sort of did a parody of Alice in Wonderland, and the characters are going to be quite remarkable when you see them. So that's coming out next year. After that, we're planning on doing some holiday books. So Tony inherits a haunted theater in New York City. It's going to be our Halloween book next fall. So you're going to get to see how Tony handles coming into owning a theater. And when he gets into the theater, he finds out that the theater is not empty.
Ooh, this is exciting. I'm excited. Well, I know folks are going to want to connect with you online, both you personally and also with Tony the Theater Dog. So where can they go to learn more?
We're on almost every social media. We have our own website, TonyTheTheaterDog.com, and it is TheAtre.com. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page for Tony, at Tony the Theater Dog. We have Instagram, at Tony the Theater Dog, Twitter, Tony Theater Dog, without the THE. And then you can find us also on Pinterest. We just got into Pinterest because a woman who has 2 million followers found our book and read it to her niece. And she wrote me and said, I have to put you on my Pinterest page. And I was like, Pinterest? I've never thought of that. So that's fairly new for us. But we're going to start pinning some ideas about what to do with your kids, how to prepare them for roles in school. And so you'll see a bunch of new boards popping up on our Pinterest page. But you can pretty much find us everywhere out there. We're published through BookBaby, which is a new self-publishing company. Basically, they handle the printing, and so it allows me to start my own publishing company, which I did. And so we're going to publish Tony the Theater Dog books, but we're also going to start publishing new plays and new musicals for people that are just starting out through my company, Open Doors Productions and Theatricals.
Well, that's really exciting. And what an exciting time that we're living in, that, we have these resources where we can take our intellectual property. We don't need some giant corporation stamp of approval. We can go out there and we can publish it and share it with the world ourselves.
Sure. And I'm going to have a program through Open Doors where I can show you how to write your book, how to illustrate it, how to copyright it, and how to put it out there and share it with the world.
That's right. And one of the things we talk about here on the podcast that surprises so many authors is, they say, I just wanted to write a book. I didn't want to be a marketing director. I didn't want to have to deal with copyright. I didn't have to want to deal with all this business stuff. But theater is a business, and writing books are a business, and all of these art things, there's a business behind it.
That's right. There is a business behind it, and I took some classes in graphic design in college, and I'm pretty good at the Adobe, Creative Suite, but actually I purchased it through my company and had to really brush up on my skills with this because I did, like we were talking about teamwork, there were a lot of people that had a lot to do with the development of this book. Dozens, in fact, and that's on the last page of the book. You'll see a thank you page to everyone who supported us, donated money, gave up their time, proofread, helped us edit, gave us ideas for ways to lay out the book and how to put the pages. It was a 2.5-year process to get the book even to the point of being able to shop it around. A lot of people were involved, but yet I did a lot of it myself because I just didn't have a ton of money. And I think a lot of authors like me are starting out. And the one thing that I said in another interview, if you think about wanting to write a children's book, start stashing some money aside, like $25 a week, $100 a week, whatever you can afford to put away. Start putting it away because you will need at least $1,000, $2,000, even if you're just wanting to write a simple kids book and put it on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It is going to cost you at least that much, if not a little bit more, to even penetrate the market even a little with marketing costs and all that. There are a lot of different costs involved. So you will need at least some money to get started. I don't know anyone that's been able to put a kids book out there for $100.
Well, we're excited to see what kind of inspiration people are going to get from the books that you're going to be publishing for authors. So we're real excited, and we'd love to have you back on to talk about future editions of Tony the Theater Dog.
That sounds great. And I hope everyone enjoys reading along with Tony, and we'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
We've been speaking to the author of Tony the Theater Dog, Glenn Kinnaird. Glenn, thanks so much for being part of the show.
Thanks, Jed. Have a great night. Bye, everyone.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Jody Stapler. She will be on the next show. We hope you will be with us. The best way to make sure you don't miss an episode is to subscribe to the show. You can subscribe to the show at our website, readingwithyourkids.com, on the iHeartRadio app, on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Himalaya Podcast Addict, Podbean, Luminary, wherever you find your podcast, you can find the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Earlier in the show, we let you know that Tony the Theater Dog by Glenn Kinnaird was a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. And that is a wonderful program that's making a huge difference for a lot of authors. Tony mentioned at the end of his interview that being an author really is more than just writing the book, especially if you are a self-published or an independent author. You become the marketing director, you become the inventory manager, you become the shipper, and it never ends. You don't have to do the promotion by yourself. We would love to help you. Our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program is a great promotional tool. We have a panel of evaluators of teachers, kids, and parents. If they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a certified great read. And with that certification comes a number of tools that can really help your book stand out amongst a crowd of books that are published every single year. Well, actually, every single month. Check it out today. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Glenn Kinnaird. Be sure to check out his Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read, Tony the Theater Dog. I want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. Be sure to check out her blog at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all of the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. And I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking through the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.